Yeah, welcome to a new video. This will be a kind of wrap-up video for the Town Memorial in Moscow. We did some dual commentaries for the first 3 rounds, like a Game of the Day stuff, but last week, um, yeah, King's Crusher and we didn't really manage to make further Game of the Day videos. We were just too busy. So I'll do some sort of wrap-up video here to get a proper end of the video coverage for this tournament. So today was the last round, and quite surprisingly at the end there's a sole winner. It pretty much looked like there would be some more than one player finishing on shared first, but at the end the winner is Magnus Carlsen from Norway, our world number one. Quite surprising at the end, because he was never in the lead in this tournament except for the final standing after round 9, and this is what matters in the end. At the end he scored 5.5 points out of 9, which is a +2 score, winning 2 games I'm sorry and playing 7 draws, which maybe sounds kind of peaceful to some people, but if you look at the games, he didn't play a really short draw without any content. There was a quite short draw, for instance, against Kramnik in the first round, but it was kind of perpetual, where he couldn't do anything to avoid it. Otherwise, he was very often the last player playing, and I think, I don't have a statistic on that, but I'm pretty sure he's gotten the most moves on average. Or maybe Nakamura is close, but he really fought hard and tried to win more games, but it didn't materialize. So at the end, +2 for Carlsen, and then shared second and third place. There's Caruana and Rajabov. Maybe I can actually try to get this on video. This possible? I can try. Yeah, okay, you should. Hopefully you see the final standing now. This wasn't really planned beforehand, but it's also a bit in German here, but I think the main point is to show the table here. So +2 for Magnus, and +1 for Rajabov and Caruana. Caruana actually was looking like the tournament winner before last round. He was leading alone before the last round with +2, but then lost to Aronian in the final round. And this actually allowed Magnus to win the tournament with a victory against McShane. So Rajabov shared second. He won against McShane and Tomaszewski, the both tail enders of the tournament, and lost to Carlsen. A very fine endgame on Carlsen's part. And then the tragedy of the tournament and the story of the tournament is Morsevich, who started with 4 out of 5 +3, which was enormous. I think close to a 3,000 ELO performance, and then he actually lost 3 games in a row. As it turned out, if you look at it now, he lost versus the 3 last places in the tournament. Last place is still a very strong player in those kind of events, so you cannot really say, okay, he lost to the Patzers or anything. Yeah, this is a wrong way to see it, of course. But he came from +3 and then lost 3 in a row to finish at 50% at the end. So he basically had the tournament in the bag and then sort of broke down. Yeah, Aronian really never got something going in this tournament. At the end, managed to get 50% with a win over Caruana, but somehow, he won the first game and he won the last game. First round and last round, and in between it was quite bleak for his standards. Yeah, Kramnik also cannot be satisfied. He had +2 at one point and was looking like he could fight for the tournament win here, and then he lost 2 in a row, which is also very unusual against Caruana, where some very somewhat misplayed half middle game, half end game, and he lost to McShane also, where he tried to win some position. I'm not sure. Maybe this was a bit too risky. He was really trying hard to win this game, and somehow it turned out that McShane's chances were better, and he made everything out of it. Yeah, Grishuk on 50%. I think he won two nice games against Hikaru and Luke McShane. He lost pretty clearly to Kramnik and also to Morosevic when he was still on his run. So yeah, I'm not sure he won't be satisfied maybe, but it's not too bad on paper. Nakamura -1. He certainly won't be satisfied with his ambitions, but he lost pretty clearly, I think, to Grishuk in a dragon where he never really had anything. It looked like, at least. And yeah, I think he would have certainly wanted more. Yeah, McShane played a very fun tournament, winning 3 games, losing 4. I'm not sure how to if he likes this result or anything. He had 3 wins against Aronian, Kramnik, and Morosevic. So especially the blacks against Aronian, the black win was very remarkable, and beating Kramnik also doesn't happen so often. Yeah, Tomaszewski on last place, who really had his kind of debut in such a strong field, and he played a little bit too cautiously, maybe. No, hard to tell. But well, -2. It's not super terrible. I think he lost like 3 or 4 elo points or something in this kind of field. -2 is not terrible. He won against Morrow, but lost also 3 games. So he certainly hoped for more, but it wasn't terrible. Alright, so this is about the final standing and a quick overview how the players did here. I think it was a very exciting tournament with lots of decisive and interesting games. Yeah, for the sake of the tournament standing and for importance, at the end I picked at the wrap-up game here the McShane against Carlsen from last round, where Magnus needed a win to catch at first, at least Caruana, and maybe overtake him if he loses, which actually happened in the end. So yeah, Carlsen is black against McShane, and he certainly wanted to try to keep winning chances. So let's see what happened. McShane opened e4, which he, I think, constantly did in this tournament. Usually he played e4, it's a normal move. And Magnus goes for e5, which he plays most of the time. Here the first very interesting point arrives early here. Magnus also plays knight f6, the Berlin Wall. And often you get this kind of endgame, but there white has at least one cop-out line where he can, yeah, pretty much play for a draw, let's say here. And this kind of position is very hard for black to try to win. I mean, the normal Berlin Wall is hard to win anyway with black, but this kind of position is pretty much, yeah, dead in terms of winning chances, which was played by McShane also with white against Kramnik, and he actually got a little bit of something in this game. Okay, so not a good idea if you want to play for a win to go for the Berlin defense. So Magnus played a6 here, the most popular move. Bishop a4, knight f6, castles, bishop e7. So the absolute main line of the Ruy Lopez. And white here usually plays rook e1, and you get all those kind of main lines like here. Carlsen usually plays the Breyer variation here. This knight b8, knight d7 maneuver, and this usually leads to a quite complicated maneuvering game where white normally enjoys slightly better chances because of his space advantage in the center, but it's the kind of position where black has got, I mean, they're all pieces on the board. Usually it's like this here, just to put up the general configuration, or black even sometimes plays just c6 here. Get a kind of position where all pieces are on the board, there's nothing exchanged, so you can hope for a long, complicated game where maybe complications will turn up later, and which even allow black to try to play for a win, just because the position is not simplified. You might get fighting chances later. So this was maybe what Magnus was up to. But McShane played an entirely different line. He captured on c6 here the deferred exchange Ruy Lopez. And the idea of this is as following. Black takes with the d-pawn here to get his bishop out immediately, so he will have some development going for him. And the difference between this kind of setup and the normal Ruy Lopez is that black already has those two pieces played, knight to f6 and bishop on e7, and in this kind of position it's actually questionable if this is such a great setup. If black would have had the choice, he wouldn't have played those moves most likely. Very often in the exchange, Ruy Lopez black, for instance, plays the move f7 to e6, therefore protecting e5, this point with a pawn. And now in this position, in this position, McShane played d3, and now the difference is this e5 pawn doesn't have a convenient. There's no convenient way to cover this pawn immediately with a move like f6. So black basically needs to move a piece again to protect the pawn, which Carlsen did with knight to d7. And this is the point of white's play here, that black needs to lose time here to protect the pawn. In this structure, white has two main ideas, and they're connected to with pawn pushes. One possible pawn push is d3 to d4 at a later stage to get the typical situation where black captures here. We can see this later. And the other idea is to play for f4. So it's this pawn levers that you can go for, which are the main ideas. It's very often the case that the main pawn breaks are the themes and the positions. I mean, white cannot reach any specific goal here with piece play alone. So let's see what happens. He played b3, which repairs the fianchetto, of course, and sort of stabilizes the queen side. In a way, black castles, bishop b2, and now f6. F6 is a move which is has its pros and cons. The positive side, of course, is that the pawn on e5 is now very reliably covered with another pawn. The downside is that black somehow weakened his white squares a bit, and this is a thing he needs to take care of. Now white went knight c3, which is a bit of an uncommon setup here. I looked it up. I mean, it looked strange to me, but it's rarely played. What white usually plays in this kind of position is actually the most popular move, at least, is d4 here actually. The black takes, knight takes, and then we got this pretty typical pawn configuration for the Ruy Lopez exchange line, where white has these 4 pawns against 3, and black, as a compensation, has got the 2 bishops. So from structural point of view, white is nice here, but black has also his chances because of the 2 bishops. Play might continue along these lines: knight c5 to attack e4. White covers, and then a move like rook e8, followed by possibly knight bishop back here, or bishop to d6. And this is maybe about equal, maybe very slightly better for white. It's an entirely different position compared to what we got in the game. So McShane played this knight c3 move, And as I mentioned, the other possible break in this position is the f4 move to attack the e5 pawn. And this is what white is, it seems, is playing for. Now black went rook e8, and this is a very good move because it prepares the very much key maneuver that black needs to know in this kind of position, and this is knight f8 to e6 to d4. Black wants his knight on d4, where it will be very nicely positioned. Actually, this route can also be modified a bit. Oops, I didn't want to do that. You can also sometimes go here, knight b8 to c6 to d4. This is an alternative, but Carlsen here decided for the other way, to play rook e8 in order to prepare knight f8, and it worked out very well for him. I think it's difficult. I'm not quite sure at which point white really ran wrong here, because I think after let's say move 18 or 19, black was very, very okay, and he only played absolutely standard moves. I mean, this is very well known, this maneuver. I play this opening as black also, and I can very much imagine myself playing this stuff. It's nothing spectacular. It's just what black is doing in these kind of lines. So McShane went king h1, which seems to be a preparing move for f4. And yeah, so it happens. Knight f8, knight to e2, which was obviously the idea of knight c3, to get the knight e2 to g3. Now c5, blocking the center. Now white can forget about playing d4. And black has a very nice central bind here with his pawns. The only thing which might look a bit ugly at the moment, at least temporarily, is this bishop, which is blocked in. But this can very often be activated on f8 to h6 if black plays g6 at some point. We will see this idea in the game also. So this is not a worry, this bishop. Much more important is to get the central grip going here. Yeah, c5, white went on knight h4. Okay, the idea is to maybe put the knight here. Knight e6, knight f5, bishop to f8. So black still secures his bishop. He's got two bishops, and he sees some future for this piece on h6 possibly. So it's no use to let this bishop getting exchanged, which also would help white a lot in terms of maybe playing for kind of drawish position, because we would have had opposite colored bishops. What I'm talking about is if black, let's say, would play some other normal move, let's say here, white might consider at some point to just capture here, and I mean, even this is somewhat more comfortable for black, but let's say here and f4, and then you get those opposite colored bishops, which are very often effective for getting to a very drawish position. And also there's lots of stuff exchanged here, and well, black has a little bit of a space advantage here in the center, and he doesn't want to exchange so many pieces, so bishop f8 is a perfectly understandable move. So yeah, here white went back to e3. I mean, the knight is not doing much on f5. It can always get kicked with g6. Yeah, now knight d4, where it wanted to go all along. And yeah, now white went f4 to get some activity going on the f file. Bishop e6, takes, knight g1, obviously preparing the next move, g6. And this is the position which I reached, and when I looked through the game before when I decided to cover it here in the video. And here I asked myself, what did white do wrong before? Because this position is, I mean, white doesn't have any active play here, not at all. And the only question is, can he hold this position against black's plans? Black is the only one here who can do something. He can, yeah, for one thing, activate his bishop. It's just one thing, which isn't so terrible, but it's an idea. Bishop h6, pretty nice square. And he's got all the pawn breaks here. White doesn't have any pawn break left. Black has got, let's say, ideas like here or here. He can actually move something on the queen side. If White moves something on the queen side, I mean pawns, then he just weakens his position. Actually, this is what he did. And I'm pretty much, I mean, he played c3 here. And after this, it's very obvious that Black is very fine. I mean, it's just a question, is he slightly better or clearly better after this move? Of course, McShane was perfectly aware of the consequences. The thing is, if you don't play this move, you need to play against this this terrible knight here all the time. I mean, c3 is the only pawn move which really, yeah, throws this knight out of your camp, and it's a constant annoyance here, this piece. It always attacks c2 here, and you need to do something about it. I'm just not sure if c3 really, yeah, if the cure maybe here is worse than the disease, so to say, because I mean, just have a look at this. c3 weakens d3, it weakens b3, and it pretty much kills this bishop also. I mean, this bishop was a bad piece anyway, I mean, bad piece is maybe too harsh, but not a piece that's doing very much. The only role in this game is to at some point maybe take the knight. Yeah, it's difficult. I mean, somewhere before I think McShane must have done something wrong, but it's hard to point out without investing really lots of time into this position and this game. So yeah, maybe you should have kept a more passive approach here, like play maybe knight f3 or queen d2 or whatever. Queen d2, bishop h6, maybe not, but I mean, it's difficult. It's not an easy position to play at all. But c3, I think, makes it quite, I mean, at least Black's plans are very obvious after this move. He just stepped back here, and then knight to f3, bishop g7, covering the e5 square and preventing any d4 ideas. And now queen e1, which is a tricky move. Maybe, yeah, well, it's very unlikely that he really expected Black to take on d3. It's a neat trick. I mean, what did Black play? Black played a5, which is really a good strategical move, trying to attack this weakness on b3 and play against the queen side. What you need to look at is, oops, this one here, queen e1. Of course, queen d3 is a move where which you need to check. But it's very, very dangerous for Black to take this pawn. Let's say rook d1. Black now takes here. Knight g5 is a bit embarrassing. Where does this queen go now? So Black cannot take e4. He needs to drop back to b5 here. And then White has this idea. Knight g5 and maybe knight d5 to come. And this has greatly activated, oops, wrong here, greatly activated White's pieces. I mean, he's got really active play now. And I mean, it looks bad, just optically it looks bad for Black, but if you ask the computer, it's already pretty much clearly better for White. So this is far too risky to take the pawn. In the game, as mentioned, he just went a5, which is just the good strategical move. Here you can also have a brief look at the time spent. So Magnus, after 21 minutes, he's on 1 hour 7 minutes left. So he didn't really spend so much time on the game, which is not too surprising. I mean, all those moves are pretty much obvious. I mean, this is what I was saying. Black wasn't doing something revolutionary great here. He just played the normal plan, and White sort of drifted into problems. So I'm not quite sure what he did wrong. I mean, McShane down to 16 minutes. He spent lots of time. He always was in train trouble in this tournament. So how do you react now to a5? You cannot play a mechanical move like a4 where just b3 is hanging. Maybe black cannot take it, but a4 is just terrible anyway. So I'm not quite sure what white should be doing. It's hard to avoid any weaknesses now on the queen side. At the end, he decided to play rook d1, cover d3 now, and on a4 to capture. Okay, and now you see lots of weaknesses here on the queen side and pretty miserable bishop on b2. So the whole queen side is an area where black dominates, and he needs to control the position, and at some point we'll get some great endgame if nothing particularly bad is happening. So in the game he continued with rook f8, activating the rook on this half-open f-file. Bishop to c1. I mean, this bishop didn't do anything on b2, so makes sense. Queen to g3, maybe intending a knight move to g5. And black attacked this rook here, winning at tempo. And so in this kind of position, if you give this to a computer, it actually tells you. I mean, this is a move that Luke McShane played, and the computer thinks this is a clear error because black can take. I mean, it's no big surprise that black can take the pawn. Of course, he saw that. The computer actually says, okay, you can play here, bishop h6, and then turn back here with the queen to cover the attacked knight. And the computer actually assesses this position as slightly better for black, but this for human, this is really super awkward to play, this kind of position. So it's very understandable that McShane didn't want to get into this kind of tied up position. I mean, it's completely, white doesn't have any harmony going in his position at all. So he decided to play rook d1 and actually just sacrifice the d3 pawn. The idea was to get maybe some play here on the king side. A very understandable decision. You don't want to, sort of sit and wait in a passive position and wait until you get a bad endgame, and better to maybe sacrifice a pawn trying to muddy the waters. So yeah, black returned his bishop to help defending, which makes sense. Knight check here. Okay, king moves. Don't want to exchange your defending bishop. Queen to h4. Yeah, and white, a little bit of counterplay, I would say, against black's king. It's not entirely clear cut here, at least from a practical point of view. I mean, the computer gives this as almost winning for black, but well, we're not computers. The computers are just a tool which help us maybe understand and analyze chess better. But it's to assess positions between human players. The computer is of very limited importance because sometimes positions are just terribly difficult to play. If you only have those only moves, you need to find those only moves with very little time. So from a practical point of view, this position is not such an easy win for black. Okay, I won bishop g5, which is I think makes sense. And now you see that white really has got some pieces near the king. Of course, quickly this was not possible because black checkmates on the back rank. So otherwise, of course, you would have liked to take with the knight, but not possible here. Queen takes, and here actually the computer has an improvement for Carlsen here. I think it's a pretty clear improvement if you look at it, but not at all easy to see. He could have played rook to f4 here. What he played is a very natural move. Let's show it's king g7. It's very natural to get the king up here, sort of attack the knight so that white's queen is somehow tied to this knight, always needs to defend it. And it's a supernatural move to play. Yeah, what I said, the computer wants to go here, sort of taking away squares from the queen so that it cannot retreat at some point, maybe help defend the queen side. And after that, the computer basically just wants to eat up the queen side and says black is not mated. Well, it's easy for the computer to see to say in a way, to give it an analysis, but it's not at all easy to decide to play such a somewhat loose looking move like rook to f4. So at the end, oops, revert to main line. Yeah, okay. At the end, king g7 played. So it's not bad also. Yeah. So now queen to c1, which has two ideas: defend those pawns for a move, yeah, but also intending knight to g5, getting a piece, more pieces into the attack, using the second knight also, and this also protects f1. So this is a nice move which combines defensive ideas with aggressive intentions of knight g5. So at this point, I think white has some kind of practical play here, and here Magnus played rook to f4. So a similar idea as before. He had alternatives, yeah, because he could have played queen to d6 to e7 to get the queen into defense or other moves. At this point here, I think McShane played rook d1. You see he had 1 minute left, so very difficult to play this here. Maybe another idea, not maybe, another idea definitely was knight to g5, which is quite interesting because it immediately attacks the f4 point here, threatening just rook f4 takes and queen takes, and black needs to react to this somehow. And here black actually needs to be precise. Let's say if black takes here, just for instance, it's not the best move here, and now the bishop is hanging on e6. Let's say black plays an active move here, bishop b3. Then white has a pretty surprising move at his disposal. He can play c4, which is very very weird looking move in a way because it's double protected here, but it forces in a way black to take this pawn, because white also has the idea of knight e6 and rook to f7. I mean, rook to f7 is the stronger threat, it's just a mate threat. Rook to f7, king takes h6, rook to h7, checkmate. So maybe put this on the board. If black would do some nothing move here, then white would check here.
Check.
This is immediate mate. So takes here, and then, oops, not this one. Rook takes h7, checkmate. Of course, and also checkmate. So white has strong threats here. Black most likely after c4, c4 needs to take this. If he takes with the queen, we have the same idea here. So black actually would need to sack the queen here to this kind of position, and it's certainly not the thing that black had in mind here. He was very much better, and now needs to defend this weird position here. So after here,
check,
to get this again on the board, black might need to take here with the bishop, and then white can play rook to d1 with the idea rook d7, and now it gets very tricky. I think black needs to take here, here, and this ends in a draw. Check here, and funny enough, after a move like here, white returns, and black doesn't have anything better than king h6 again. Okay, but well, these are not lines that you can calculate with 1 minute on the clock. So time management really an essential factor here in this game. McShane went for another move, but let's just check briefly what would have been good actually for black. He could have played also, if white would have gone knight g5, queen to d6, which is sort of controlling move, yeah, controlling the position. A possible continuation, I can only show the outlines here, it's really complicated. Rook d1, let's say queen to e5 here, takes f4, and then move like here. White always needs to protect this knight, so it cannot take here because black just captures. So let's say here and here, and this position is still very much better for black. The problem being that this knight on h6 is somewhat stranded. It always needs protection from the queen, and black has also the better structure with a brilliant knight on e5. So black is also better here, but maybe knight g5 would have been better from a practical point of view, hard to tell. Okay, in the game it pretty much ended without much of a fight. I think Carlsen just controlled the position and sort of wrapped it up nicely. Rook f8. Yeah, I mean, if black would have taken here, you need to look at this move, pinning the rook, and this rook will get lost. So he just played normal strengthening moves here. I mean, this piece is not going anywhere. So this also explains here the following moves: knight g5, g3, rook f2, and those knights are looking like active pieces, but they are somewhat stranded. They have no way back here. The knight on h6 and g5, they have absolutely no square they can go to. And I mean, 1 minute on the clock for such a position against 40 minutes is just brutal. So rook f2, knight f5, sort of, yeah, desperation move. I mean, this knight was just hanging, and black was threatening all kinds of stuff. So he tried to get in a check here, but just rook king to h8, and now we are on move 40, and well, the time trouble was over also for McShane here, and the time he now had was spent to check if he has got some last kind of swindling chance here, and he doesn't. Mainly because, I mean, black is a pawn up, a piece up, but also threatening queen to e4 to g2 mate. Oops, not to f2, to g2. So if white would, let's say, play this here, attacking the rook, then black can take here.
Checkmate. And
just checkmate. So it's a pretty weird game. If you look at this, it's hard to tell, at least for me. Maybe someone else watching just understand this kind of structure better, but it was hard for me to tell where white really went wrong here, because I think this kind of position is really a little bit without any prospects. I mean, you can play it and it's solid and so on, but it's you cannot do much, and black is the only one to have some active ideas on the queen side. This kind of structure which happened. I mean, c3 looks very debatable, but it's not very convenient anyway. So it would be interesting to hear what the players think here. What was maybe the inaccuracy, or maybe they just they don't see this position as being so terrible for white. I mean, c3 is really a huge concession to play. Very difficult. After this, I think it was really an uphill struggle, where white maybe could have put up some slightly tougher resistance, but even also looking at the clocks, yeah, white was also down on time. I think this is murderous to play this against, I mean, the strongest player in the world. So on the other side, very bad afternoon you get in those kind of stuff, I think. or I can imagine. I mean, I never played such a strong player. So okay, this was a game from the final round. Very nice play from Magnus. It had a very logical flow to it. Yeah, preparing this knight maneuver here. Oops, this why? Okay, I should be able to draw arrows. Why can't I do it? Yeah, I'm not sure why, but well, this kind of knight maneuver here. Maybe I should revert our moves. Yeah, maybe. Yeah, now it's working. This kind of knight maneuver. It's very standard in this position, but he sort of executed it in the purest possible form. Sort of a model game for black side in this opening. And yeah, hard to tell where white really went astray here. And then a very good mop-up job here. Maybe this knight g5 would have been a bit more testing. I mean, in this position instead of rook d1, this knight g5 maybe was a bit more challenging, but black was better there anyway. It's really hard to overcome those stranded pieces. You know, stranded piece on h6. Yeah, well, thanks for watching, and yeah, I'll try to update the channel regularly with yeah, varied content. So I'm trying to put up various different videos. I think what I will do soon again is some sort of book reviews. I hope you're interested in this as well, and also I will continue at some point this e4 e5 repertoire series. Next video will be about the Scotch game from black's point of view, but these are always really tough work to prepare. So it's nothing that I can do offhand, so to say, and not a quick job to do. Yeah, thanks for watching, and yeah, leave any questions or comments on this video on YouTube, and I try to answer questions or read your comments, of course. Thanks and bye.